Hello, folks. This is Miss Kesson. I am here today to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects of all time, especially because I see so many presentations, and that is how to not have a bad presentation. There have been way too many that I've seen that have made me want to sob and cry, and will eventually make you cry as well if you are in the audience or if you've realized that you've made your audience cry. So, we're going to talk about 10 ways to make sure that your presentations are the best that they can be, look at some pitfalls and some places where we could really excel and have fantastic presentations that we will be talking about for decades to come. So let's get started. Number 10, you only read off the screen. This happens when all you are doing is reading off the screen. Your text is exactly the same as what you are saying, and it is not adding any new information. This really doesn't make the best use of your time. For readers or viewers, it doesn't help either because they can read ahead or easily tune you out because you have nothing to add to the conversation. You are just boring them, and you are not practicing good public speaking skills, as reading from the screen makes it seem like you never bothered to practice. Not to mention, how exhausted did you all feel when you saw this slide? It's a lot of mental work to read through this, analyze it, and still listen to someone else do the exact same thing. Many of you have already tuned out by the time I reach this sentence, and the rest of you were probably impatient and read ahead. However, there is a way to solve this dilemma and stop me from crying over where the presentation goes wrong. Redundancy. If you can avoid redundancy, like we just saw on that last slide where we repeated on and off screen, you will have a much better presentation. Far too often I see people who will put the exact same text on their slide as they are reading out loud. You just experienced how boring that can be. You really had no extra information added from either listening to me or watching what was going on. So take advantage of the fact that you do have a medium where people can see things on the screen behind you and they can listen to what you have to say. A great way to make sure you guys avoid redundancy is to have bullet points with just a few key words instead of full-on sentences or please no paragraphs. You can also make sure there's limited text for pure key facts, and if you need to, longer text could be used for things like definitions, such as when I just gave the definition of redundancy. If you can limit that, as you've already heard in this second slide, there's much more information that you can add, and it frees you up to be able to add on pieces that maybe you hadn't thought of while you were practicing, or to field questions, or to at least keep your audience engaged and give them incentive to listen to you because what you say has importance as well. Number 9, only text. There are no pictures at all. The only thing you've put into your slide is text, and that will make me cry because you're already talking and telling us what's going on, so it gets really boring really fast to hear you talking and to watch the writing on the screen and have nothing to really break that up. There are a number of people too who are not necessarily learners through words alone. And actually, research shows that people learn better when you have pictures as well as your text. So use multimedia. Multimedia, if we break it down, multi, many, media, the different things we use to convey our message. So in multimedia, using graphics as well as your words can really make a difference in your presentation and take it from a presentation that makes me cry in boredom to a presentation that will make me cry in inspiration. So, when we talk about graphics, we could mean images, such as Adele telling us, hello, it's the image. Or our Star Trek GIF telling us hello as well. So you could use animations, you could use images, you could use charts, graphs, diagrams. It's really up to your imagination. Now, with that being said, multimedia makes it a lot more fun. So we could do things like add color to add some excitement. We could even add in tons of emojis, maybe just even leave out words altogether. I mean, you could totally say everything you need to say in pictures alone. We could show sadness. We could show a really excited kid. Ooh, and maybe Amanda Bynes being excited. And while we're at it, we can add GIFs. So many GIFs all over the place, because who doesn't love all kinds of animation and all kinds of craziness? And you know what? We can just have all of our pictures and animations and nothing else, and that will be the absolute best. But we have to have it be readable. And that can be a little bit overwhelming to have too many GIFs or too many pictures as well. So take, for example, if we're talking about this red hornbill bird. If I were to ask you for the scientific name of our red-billed hornbill, first of all, by having that picture, you have a better understanding, yes, of what the bird is. If I add in this little GIF of Zazu, you have an even better idea based on your understanding of Lion King and your reference to it. And so by having these images, you have a reference to it. You have an understanding of what the red-billed hornbill is. We even added contrasting color to make the picture stand out. But if I ask you for that scientific name, it's probably a little hard to tell me based on the pictures alone. Even if I were to give you the title of it, if I were to give you the name of our red-billed hornbill in its scientific name, you'd probably have a hard time with pronouncing it or spelling it out. So try it. I'll even be nice and give you the name. So the name of our red-billed hornbill in its scientific naming is the Tachus erythrorhynchus. How well can you spell that based on me just telling you? Go ahead, try. No? A little tough? See how close you got. Sometimes text is needed for us to be able to explain what's going on, or for us to be able to give definitions or new words or have better understanding. So it's not that text is unnecessary, but we want to minimize the amount of text we have on our screen and try to pull in our animations and try to pull in our images to best help us. Number 8. Where do I look? If I tell you, look at the cat on the screen, and I had all these cool images of cats I found, do you have any idea which cat I'm talking about? No, probably not. Now, what I can do is I can use signaling to make it even better. So if in your presentation you were to say, look at the cat, and your viewer is left in the dark on what cat you're talking about, you could use verbal signals. Look at the cat with the mustache. He looks kind of terrified. Or little burrito cat makes me kind of hungry. You could also use images, such as circling, so that we draw our eye down to the cat with the glasses. You could also use arrows, so we see our little helmet cat up at the top. But it gives us an idea of what specifically we're talking about. If we don't have an idea of where we're looking, or if there's so much going on the screen that we don't know what's going on, we're not going to be able to follow your presentation, and ultimately, yes, I will cry. Now, there is such a thing as too much signaling. Way too much. So much signaling. Whether it's you have plenty of colors all over the place, maybe too many colors all over the place, or the colors make it hard to read, or there's just arrows pointing all over, or you got really excited about those animations, it's possible to have too much signaling. So, try to Goldilocks it. In the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Goldilocks focuses on trying to find what's just right. Some things are too hot, some things are too cold. She goes for what's just right. You want to have just enough signaling, that indication of where you want the viewer to look, or what you want us to focus on, that we're able to know what's going on, but it's not taking away from your overall message. If you use transitions, if you use animations, if you use color coding or arrows or circles or any other kind of drawing, just don't overdo it, and that'll get you your best result. So if we wanted to talk about what pot of porridge Goldilocks wanted to eat, we could just use our arrows to point to it. Arrow's not in the way of anything. It's simple. It's not bouncing all over the place to get there. It's straightforward and to the point. Same if we want to show what chair she should choose. So there's a way to do it that you're not overdoing it, and it's easy for everyone to see and understand. Number 7. Having too much basic information or not enough explanation. You really need to make sure that when you're doing a presentation, you keep in mind your audience and your occasion. If you're presenting on a book to a room full of people who have read the book, you probably don't need to go over the basic plot information. It's too much basic info. At that point, your audience they're experts. They don't need that basic background. However, if you're presenting on someone or something that people don't really have a lot of experience with, you need to make sure you give that basic information so that your readers know and your viewers know what it is that you're talking about and what's going on, or they'll get lost and they won't be able to learn from you. So for example, if I was going to talk about Pokemon, the way that I talk about Pokemon to my friends or to someone who has known the series for a long time is going to be very different than if I have to explain to my parents or to people who are new to the game that it's Pokemon, not Pokemon, or that you have all these different creatures that you catch and battle with and so on. Explaining that over and over to an expert isn't going to work. Similarly, the game Harvest Moon does a nice job with providing plenty of tutorials for the players, but at the same time, for people who have played through the game, they're able to skip past tutorials in some of the series entries and move right along into what they want to do for the day. So you want to make sure that you're being very aware in each of your presentations that you give. How much does your audience already know? How much do you need to teach them? Number 6, weird layouts. So, how many people looked over to dogs are hilarious and then to the image? For a split second, there was one that you didn't notice. In my case, I always notice the text first, and then my eyes dart over to the dog, giving the creeped out face. Sometimes in presentations that have made me want to cry, presenters have weird layouts. So they'll have text way over on one side, and the picture is way far away from anything that you're actually talking about. This is actually called the split attention principle. So in split attention, it's just the idea that people learn better when you put your text and your relevant images together. Because otherwise what you have to do is keep going back and forth on your images. So already much better with the dog is hilarious. We associate that this dog is the one that is being hilarious here. So keep your information close to your pictures and make it easy on your viewer to be able to process. Number 5, Mr. Roboto. This comes from public speaking. A lot of times in presentations, people get really, really nervous. And when we get nervous, we have a tendency to tense up. We have a tendency to try to be someone that maybe we're not normally. And we have a tendency to kind of forget what it feels like to just have a conversation. So one of the best things that you can do is take a big, deep breath, relax, and do things like make sure that you're talking in a pretty normal tone of voice, a normal volume, something that's relaxed and conversational. Your learners will actually learn more from you, and your audience will learn more if you speak in a conversational way rather than speak in a very formal tone or focus on trying to use giant words to impress people and things like that.